Hello, and welcome to Lawless Conversations with Katie. I'm Katie, your host. This podcast goes through various difficult subjects such as abortion, gun control, prison systems, or gender, to name a few, and dives into all different aspects of the arguments that might be offered or discussed. At the moment, we are wading our way through the subject of abortion, and today we will be looking at taking men out of the abortion discussion altogether. Although I have spent a lot of time and effort into researching these topics, I am by no means an expert on this subject or any other subject I will explore in the future. So take my thoughts with a grain of salt, and of course, if you have any questions or things to add, please share them. I try my best to keep my own biases out of these explorations, and because I'm talking about many aspects of a subject, including opposing ideas and arguments, know that these are not necessarily ideas that I subscribe to or hold personally. I will, however, explore different arguments as if I do believe in them in order to truly explore all facets of this subject. Finally, because these are difficult subjects, there will be some content that is hard to hear and might be triggering. Please understand I am not looking to insult anyone, but to explore these subjects openly and honestly. I don't want to convince anyone to think like me. I want to convince people to think, period. So without further ado, come have a lawless conversation with me. There are a few ways in which someone could see the concept of taking men out of the abortion equation altogether. One aspect is that because the act of abortion or pregnancy and birth only happen within the female body, men have and should have no say in the outcome. Then there is the side of men really don't have much say because it is her body, her choice. But if you start expecting men to have a bigger role in protecting themselves and their partner from unwanted pregnancy, such as taking a male birth control when it is available, then they will want or should have a more decision-making part in the abortion decision. Let's expound on the first concept. Men do not and should not have any say in the abortion conversation because they do not contribute anything to the pregnancy but the sperm. While some part of this makes sense, there are offshoots of issues that come from this thinking. For instance, it does make sense that the trauma of having a baby or an abortion will not physically ever be felt by a male. He has completed his part and made his choice by the point of the abortion decision. But if men do not have any input, then they should not be held responsible by law for the child if they do not want it. Men should not be made to pay child support if a woman decides to keep the baby, just the same as she should not be forced to keep the baby just because he wants it. One might look at this argument and say that it's not fair to let men off the hook for taking care of their child if the mother decides to keep it, because he contributed half the genes to creating that child. But in this scenario, you can't have it both ways. You can't say men have no right to have an opinion on abortion or be a deciding voice in abortion, and then turn around and say he is also bound to the woman and the baby because of what the woman chooses. There either has to be a complete cutoff of men from this decision altogether, or some allowance for men to participate in the conversation. On a tangential thought, I wonder if women would protect themselves more readily, or be more choosy, or have more abortions if men were no longer required to be part of a baby's life, or pay any money to a mother if she chooses to keep it. I know it's not every woman, but I would imagine some women who get pregnant might decide to keep their baby because they know the father will have to contribute and they feel safer being able to take care of it since the father would be contributing. Or on the more sinister side, I wonder if some women are less careful because they want to have a child, even if the man does not, and feel confident that if she were to get pregnant, she could get what she wants, a baby, a family, a husband, etc., and he would have no choice in if she kept it or if he provided for it. I'm not really sure that this thought had a point, but I found it interesting to mull over. Taking mandated child support away would not be an acceptable choice for some. However, it would balance the inequality of choice in this particular scenario. The second thought about men and the abortion choice is interesting and tricky. I've said in this podcast many times that there should be more balance in relation to protection against unwanted pregnancy. Oftentimes, I am referring to the creation of a male birth control, hormonal or not, or simply men being more willing and understanding towards using the two options available to them, condoms and vasectomies. However, introducing this kind of balance might have an interesting turn of desires. For example, if a man chooses to take a male birth control, Then by way of him contributing more in this manner, he might start to feel more inclined to contribute in the choice to abort or keep the fetus, should the woman become pregnant. Almost as if giving men more power to decide if a woman gets pregnant through the use of male birth control, they would start to want more power to control the decision after the pregnancy had occurred. This thought process is a bit shaky in logic, but a valid possibility nonetheless. Being one step closer to controlling pregnancy might cause a stronger desire to be more involved in other ways. When it comes to men taking birth control, though, many women would not trust a man to maintain any form of daily or monthly routine like women maintain with things like an oral birth control. There is a general feeling that men cannot be trusted or take such responsibility seriously enough to be as effective as women, particularly because they still will not have to consider the physical or emotional consequences if the failure in routine causes a pregnancy. Which is why I say there needs to be a balance rather than a complete transfer of birth control responsibility. Trying to bring men into the decision-making process brings up the idea of how much say a man should have. When a man chooses to ejaculate in a woman, he has made his choice, and any subsequent action is none of his concern. But should the woman be required to tell her sexual partner, no matter what the relationship they hold, that she is pregnant and what actions she will take? Since his DNA is connected to the embryo or fetus, some would say he deserves to know and possibly have a say in that choice to keep or abort it. There will be women who don't want the input of the man and might do what they want without telling him. Are laws then required to hold women to this communication? In order to put laws in place to make sure the man is taken into account, one would have to step into the realm of taking autonomy away. For instance, in order to make sure the man has some say, one might suggest that he has to sign a waiver, saying that he is not concerned with any choice the woman makes in regard to the embryo or fetus before she can have an abortion. This is not a workable solution for many reasons, such as rape, incest, marital rape, one-night stands, and the overall subjugation of women to men. That one's a little bit obvious. Along a slightly different line of thought, when a man chooses to ejaculate in a woman, he might make this choice because he has been told she is on birth control. If she lied, that presents a more nuanced issue of his responsibility and subsequent accountability to the choice after fertilization. This issue is nuanced because if a man chooses to ejaculate in a woman he believes is on birth control, the question of education comes up. Does he know that there is no birth control that is 100% effective? If not, is he not fully informed about the risks of ejaculating in her, even if she is on birth control? Is that lack of education something the woman should be responsible for by giving up autonomy if she becomes pregnant? Or is she responsible for making sure he is educated about the risks before they have sex? At what point does personal responsibility come into all this as well for both men and women? Needless to say, taking men completely out of the equation is not feasible. But to what degree they should be involved is still up for question. Today, I have less of a set of questions and more of just a desire to hear your thoughts. In relation to men and the abortion discussion, where do you think the line should be drawn? Do you think men should have more of a say? Do you think men should not be involved at all? How does that look for you? What is your opinion in the man and abortion discussion? Share your thoughts. If you are interested in commenting about this episode or answering any of the questions I just asked, you are welcome to. You can either send me an email at lawlessconversations@yahoo.com. That is LAWLESSCONVERSATIONS@yahoo.com. You can also comment on Twitter at Lawless Convos, LAWLESSCONVOS. Finally, you can also contact me on Facebook if you just look for Lawless Conversations, 2 different words, LAWLESSCONVERSATIONS. I look forward to hearing from you. The references to any sources that I use in each episode will be available in the bio, along with all of these social media connections. Join me next Wednesday as I interview my brother about a man's perspective in relation to the abortion discussion or just this subject in general. These conversations are always fun for me because I get to just talk to people and go wherever the conversation leads. This one was definitely very interesting, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you for joining me for this week. I look forward to next Wednesday.